Okay, everyone. Thank you for your patience. I think we're good to get started here. So again, welcome to our webcast this afternoon. Today's topic is planning and preparing for open enrollment this year. I think you'll find our content is going to be super helpful, especially since this year is a little bit different. Our presenters today are my colleagues Lila and Rohit, and they'll be walking you through open enrollment and some considerations that are a little bit different this year. They both have many, many years of HR experience, and as I mentioned before, please use your question icon on your toolbar to ask questions. Next slide, Lila. So let's review the agenda. Our agenda is one, I'm going to, for those of you who aren't familiar with EVOSIS, I'm going to give you a high-level overview of EVOSIS, and then we'll get right into the open enrollment considerations for the year. So EVOSIS, let me tell you, I'm so super proud to work here. We are a global company that has over 1,200 global customers, and thousands of those are on the Oracle Cloud. We operate out of 30 countries around the world and employ over 1,500 consultants, and this is an important number for everyone to be aware of. Our consultants are actually employees, they're not contractors, and we find that provides our customers with a better level of customer service, if you will. And what you should know, while we do win awards for our HR excellence, being partner of the year globally, what we do also do really well is multiple pillars of the Oracle Cloud software. So we actually implement and support Oracle ERP, EPM, and we also do some technology consulting as well, so that for those specialized things like chatbots or Internet of Things and so forth. Next slide, Lila. Again, we don't like to brag, but we kind of do, because I'm not sure if everyone on the line knows how many Oracle partners there are out there around the globe, but there's literally hundreds. And you can see here, we've won Partner of the Year awards across the globe, particularly around HCM. That is our claim to fame. We have a long, rich history with the Oracle HR Cloud software. And some of the things that makes EVOSIS different than some of the other partners out there that people have to choose from, one is, and this is super important for our customers, especially in today's times, we have fixed price engagements. Every statement of work that you would get from us always has a fixed fee. So we feel like that helps our clients with their budgeting and their project management cost controls. Also, what we're super proud of, we're kind of like a boutique firm. We actually have the same breadth and depth of knowledge as one of the big four SIs, consulting firms out there, but we're much more flexible. And as I've mentioned already, we are HCM experts, and we are a full service firm. Everything from implementation to managed services is our bailiwick. And one of the big things that we do, if you ever have any transformational projects, we actually will build in KPIs into our contracts to make sure that our clients receive the return on investment they anticipate. So for instance, if one of your project goals was to decrease onboarding time by 20%, we actually will commit to that in writing in our contracts for our customers. So super proud to work at a company that offers that. And with that, I think now I'll pass it over to Lila. And again, before we get started here, if you have any questions or comments, please use your question icon in the toolbar, and we'll be taking those as they come in. Over to you, Lila.
Thank you so much, Bonnie, and hello, everybody. Welcome to the webinar. Appreciate your attendance. And so as Bonnie suggested, we have a little different spin this year because things are different this year and we're all dealing with that. And so we're going to talk a bit about how COVID impacts benefits and open enrollment this year. And then I'm going to hand it off to Rohit, and Rohit is going to take you through the typical open enrollment considerations, the things that you need to be thinking about, planning and preparing for successful open enrollment experience. So that's kind of the order of the presentation today. As you can see on this slide, always good to talk about the regulatory changes. Every year there's always changes to these limits. And so if you hadn't seen them already, just thought we would share them with you. The ACA as well as high deductible health plans both have had increases in the out-of-pocket maximums. And so just sharing that information as that would be part of what you would be setting up for your plans. Now, specifically for COVID, because things are different, in the past, employees may have just said, oh, okay, benefits, sure. Yeah, I need a health plan. This one's the cheapest. I'll take that, right? A lot of people, much as benefits people spend all sorts of time carefully crafting the plan offerings for the organization, thinking hard about what they can do and what's going to be best for the company and employees. Employees themselves often don't spend as much time as they should. It's sort of a, yeah, I guess we need to sign up, and so they do, but they don't put a lot of consideration into it. Typically what you find is it's only if you're having healthcare experiences that you have more sensitivity to, do I have the right level of coverage? Am I going to be covered for the things that are important to me? But your typical employee just selects a plan that's maybe the lowest cost per pay period to them. But with COVID, people have a greater awareness around what they're going to be needing for health plans. There have been stories of people, there's one individual that had to be hospitalized for COVID and ended up with over $1 million in medical bills as a result of their treatment. So as stories like that are going around, people are far more sensitive and concerned about if they were to contract COVID or some other illness, what is it going to cost them and do they have the right coverage? So that's something that you need to be thinking about. In addition to that, you may want to think about different offerings this year or enhancing some of your offerings to accommodate some of the considerations around COVID. And so because of the concerns about being in person, many people are still spending the majority of their time at home, they're working from home. And likewise, if they need some kind of medical treatment, there's a reluctance to go into a healthcare provider and get that treatment. The preference would be to do things remotely. And the stories out there are saying that many people are neglecting medical treatment for fear of going in and contracting something else. So if you don't have a telehealth program, you might want to look at incorporating one. Most of the major carriers have some version of a telehealth program that you can incorporate into your offerings. And many employees would see that as preferable to going to an in-person office visit unless it's absolutely necessary. So that's the first recommendation, is having virtual options for healthcare treatment, which in some cases seems a little counterintuitive, but I need a doctor, I need them to look at me. But the growing expansion of telehealth programs is really remarkable in what they're able to do. And there are even cases where you will sometimes have a key surgeon who is remote guiding a surgical team through an operation. So the things that can be done remotely or virtually are actually getting quite extensive. And so it certainly should be something that's considered. Secondarily, everybody's experiencing a lot of stress in relation to COVID. And so if you don't have mental health options in your plan offerings, it would be a good idea to add one. Most organizations have some sort of employee assistance program, but that may not be enough. People may want actual counseling and therapy here as well. There are virtual offerings for therapy, and those are growing in popularity and usage. So you may want to consider providing additional healthcare benefits, mental health benefits, which has often been stigmatized, but would be a really nice addition, especially this year where people are feeling more of a need to talk to somebody and get some support. It would be nice to offer that as an organization. There also could be consideration for increasing the cost sharing on expenses related to plans. So where people might be more financially strapped this year, they may have spouses or partners that have lost their jobs, and so they may be trying to stretch their income even further. And so if there's an opportunity, because of course companies have been impacted as well, and many of them are finding ways to cut costs, but if there's an opportunity, it would be nice to be able to expand what you are covering and maybe reduce some of those costs for the employees and give them a little bit of ease up on their deductions that they're experiencing for the remainder of this year and next year. There's also suggestions about voluntary benefits. So what would you be offering? Well, the mental health support might be one option that you could consider. But again, along the lines of where people are experiencing more financial hardship, one thing that can be offered that I don't really think it costs a company, it's just inviting them in, is loan programs. So rather than going to a payday loan or some other type of short-term loan service where they have astronomical interest charges, you can offer loan programs through your company, which would give them reasonable interest rates and would make it easier if somebody needs some kind of temporary loan or short-term loan to get one and get one at a more affordable option. It would only further add to somebody's stress if they end up going one of those routes and now they've got some 20–30% interest rate that they're paying. So loan programs is high on the list of COVID-related voluntary benefits. Other options, things like Ship It, which just facilitates ordering things and having them delivered. That's obviously become far more popular right now. And so providing some type of delivery benefit to employees is something to consider. And you might also want to look at student loans. So there are programs that will help employees pay down their student loans, refinance their student loans. And so bringing something in like that might also be beneficial. So various voluntary benefits that may not really cost the company much, but just help out your employees would be something that would be a nice thing to do and support them. The other consideration, even outside of COVID, organizations were starting to see high cost claims substantially increasing in the number and the amount. It's still a small percentage of your employee population, or should be in most cases, a small percentage of your population that have high cost claims, but most organizations have seen that number go up, both in the number that have them, as well as the amount of those claims. And so there are firms that specialize in managing these claims. They will work directly with care teams. And so what they do is they kind of evaluate the care recommendations, work with the patient to make sure that they're getting the right care in the right time. So that helps minimize costs, because if it's left to the healthcare provider, they're not always making sure that things are being done in the appropriate timing and the appropriate level that is effective for the employee as well as cost effective to the healthcare provider. So these organizations have been shown to dramatically reduce costs and contain costs for an organization. And so more and more companies are looking at bringing those on. And so that becomes more relevant as COVID often leads to, for those that are impacted, hospitalization and extended hospital stays. Having one of these types of high cost claim service providers can help you to manage some of those COVID claims. So these are kind of ways to maybe think about benefits differently this year than you might normally when we don't have a pandemic going on. And let's all hope by 2021, this is a thing of the past and we're no longer dealing with it. Continuing on with those considerations. So again, to that whole, you may have an employee who's worked for you for a number of years, and every year they just, same benefits I had last year. This year, you may have a much greater percentage of employees that are scrutinizing the plans that you offer and asking a whole lot more in the way of questions. So we would say that you should be anticipating that you will be getting a much higher volume of calls and emails related to the plan offerings, with employees wanting much more information about how these plans work, what benefits they would provide, what would be their out-of-pocket costs associated with particular situations. So we think you should be prepared to take on that greater level of communication that's going to be required to support those employees. So that's the first thing to think about. But then let's talk for a moment about what are best practices around communications. So if we're communicating with employees and thinking about the fact that in past years, they may have just said, yeah, give me what I had before. And, open enrollment was relatively non-event for the majority of your employees. This year, you may have a much greater percentage that are looking to change plans, as well as evaluating those plans. So the recommendation is that you plan to schedule a lot more sessions. So if in prior years, maybe you scheduled one session for people to come to you if they had questions and things like that, and kind of walk through the plan offerings, and maybe you had some videos or emails that you would send out. This year, we would say you'd want to schedule multiple webinars, give employees multiple opportunities to show up, ask questions, fully understand the plan offerings. And what's been shown with communication is it needs to be repetitive. Sending it once, many people, their inboxes might be full and they miss it for whatever reason, or the subject line doesn't catch their attention. So it's important, multiple methods, multiple formats, that you're trying in multiple ways to reach out to your employees. And because people might be working at home, you might also want to send a letter to their house. So if somehow, in all their emails, they miss the ones telling them about the webinars or the new plan offerings, another way to get at them would be a physical letter in the mail. And so that would probably be noticed quicker than potentially an email out of a full inbox. So just something to think about. But again, that multiple methods and multiple formats is kind of a best practice around ensuring your communication is received. But the other side of that, how can you confirm that your employees know that you sent out communications and you're offering them information, is you can always have surveys. And so if you put out a survey, and of course surveys are, not everybody responds to them, but that will give you some sense of, was your message received? Was it received correctly? Did they understand what you're trying to say? So those are kind of best practices and just some guidance. If you haven't thought about communications, we really feel like it's going to be far more critical this year, and really important to make sure you have a solid communication plan associated with your open enrollment process. Another consideration, if you have HCM Cloud Helpdesk, first of all, have you implemented it? And if you haven't, maybe you want to kind of quickly get it set up specifically for open enrollment and to support that process, because again, you will probably have a much higher volume of employees wanting answers, employees asking questions, and having a format through which they can do that will really facilitate that. So if you already have Helpdesk and you haven't set it up, we would suggest this as an excellent opportunity to let's get it set up for open enrollment and help support the open enrollment process. If you already have it set up, but maybe you want to enhance it, maybe you have a little bit around benefits, maybe we want to build it out more fully so employees can use self-service to get answers to their questions. So if you have Helpdesk, how much have you built out the knowledge base? Have you built it out around open enrollment related information? Do you have specific plan information for 2021? So if I want to know the plan options and offerings and prices, can I go to HCM Helpdesk and get answers to all of that type of information? So that's another consideration, especially with the additional focus people will have this year. HCM Helpdesk can certainly help with reducing some of the questions you're going to receive and providing employees more of a self-service means for addressing those questions. Oh, and my last point on here, depending on how well the help desk was set up and configured, if you hadn't fully used it for benefits before, if people are asking benefits questions and the knowledge base doesn't have answers, you want to make sure the right people are set up for those tickets to route to, so that you have a benefits or open enrollment specific queue that tickets can get routed to, so people get timely answers to their questions. All right, so something else we want to show you, at Evosis, we have an innovation team that focuses on some of this future state technology, most innovative technology that's available today, however you'd like to refer to that. And so one of the things that we've done an extensive amount of work with is digital assistants. we've provided digital assistants for pretty much every area within HCM. And so if you haven't used digital assistants, with the increased focus, the increased level of communication and support that's going to be required, we think open enrollment is an excellent opportunity to dip your toes in the water around digital assistants. It would give you a chance to experience them, would give you a chance to see the value that they can bring. And so we think this is a nice consideration. If you don't currently use them, then you might want to try it out for open enrollment and reduce the amount of effort and activity on the part of your benefits team and HR team to supporting employees. And then that's an opportunity to determine where else you might use them. And if you do have them, perhaps you have them for recruiting. You might have in a few other areas, but maybe not extensively for open enrollment. And so this is an area that we think is an excellent opportunity to utilize a digital assistant. And so I'm going to pop out of the PowerPoint here and going to bring up. So what I have here, this is a video that's going to show us in Google Assistant accessing a digital assistant around open enrollment. Now, I will also mention that we have capability to work with any messaging tool that your organization likes to work with. So whether it's Yahoo Messenger, does anybody use Skype anymore? If you use Skype, if you like Siri or Alexa, so it can be voice activated. Same thing here with Google Assistant. Google Assistant can be voice activated. So we can work with voice activated tools. We can work with any messaging tool or just a web-based digital assistant, whatever the preference is for your organization. So I just want to make that clear that you're not limited, but our particular demo here is going to show you Google Assistant. So let me kick that off here. And what you're seeing is somebody's phone that is going into Google Assistant and the open enrollment chatbot. So here we're asking about the health plans that the employee has available. And the digital assistant then comes back and lists out the plans that we have available for them. So it's just an interactive conversation, and you can see a little microphone so they can speak it as well as type it in, whatever their preference is. And we've included, so the conversation that the digital assistant provides is based on your criteria. So this is what we put in as far as our explanation for HSA. Yours might be different, and we can have whatever wording, whatever information you would like to be able to provide to your employees, but then they're able to get their questions answered here. They aren't taking up the time of an HR or a benefits team member. Instead, digital assistance is answering all these repetitive questions that dozens or hundreds of employees might have in your organization. Okay, just checking, we're still moving along here. I had a little pause there, but it's still going. And so you can see here, now we're asking about, can I enroll my spouse for life benefits, I think? And then that's where it says, yeah, just that you can have life insurance for your spouse once you elect basic life for yourself. So again, explaining those basic plan rules that you probably get these questions over and over again. Digital assistant immediately answers them for the employee. There's no hesitation. They're not waiting for somebody to reply to an email or return a phone call. It's readily available. And most employees nowadays are far more comfortable texting or messaging and prefer it to using the phone. So it's really the preferred vehicle of communication for a good percentage of your employees. And so here showing you the different costs and levels of coverage associated with the different plans. And all of the responses, like I said, can be tailored to your organization and how you like to respond, and how you want to ask the questions or respond to the questions. So this is all with what you would like to have. And we have our pet insurance. and telling them the cost for the pet insurance. And we can pull information from the benefits module as well. So here, employees asking, what plans am I enrolled in? This is just a simple response, but we can bring back we can bring up what they're enrolled in, what their pay period costs are, whatever information you want to provide to your employees, we can make available through the digital assistant. I'll also say our demo example, we're using good grammar and punctuation, but that really isn't required. The digital assistant is able to interpret, and even if it's not the best grammar or punctuation, it will still be able to help. And here too, whatever you'd like to say as a goodbye, we can use that as well. So that's to give you a little flavor of our digital assistant. And so now let's go back to our presentation. Oh, I'm sorry, it took me back to the first slide here. So we will quickly go back. And so
while you're doing that, Lila, I'll remind everyone, if you have any questions, use the question icon on their toolbar. I think the digital assistants are super cool, and I think they're a lot easier to utilize than what people think. I think everyone has a perception that they're super detailed and it would be hard to implement, but in fact, that may not be the case. Is that true, Lila?
Yeah, excellent point, Bonnie, that these are very quick and easy to implement. We can put one of these in for you in less than a month's time, especially if we're talking about something like open enrollment, where we already have something pre-built, and then we would just need to have your specific content for what you would like to respond and what information we should pull to present to the employee. So it's an excellent opportunity to try it out. We have some attractive packages that we'll talk about at the end of the presentation to help you get started. And with that, yeah, and Rohit, I'm going to turn it over to you. So please go ahead.
Yep. So thank you, Bonnie, and thank you, Laila, for your inputs on this particular topic. So let's revise quickly what open enrollment means for the employee as well as for the organization. Okay. So for the employees, as you all know, it is an opportunity for the eligible participants or the employees to enroll in a plan if they are not currently enrolled into one. It is an opportunity for them to change coverages, to enroll family members into the coverage. And if they do not want a particular coverage for the next year, they can simply decline that particular coverage, or you can say essentially waive the coverage. So from an employee's perspective, it gives them these opportunities. From an organization's perspective, you might want to modify the plan configurations. If there is a new plan which is coming up into 2021, you might want to start setting that up in the application. You might want to update the rates and coverage information in the system for the existing plans. If some benefit offering is no longer offered for 2021, you might want to end that. So as an organization, you need to plan for these, and I'll talk about the planning shortly afterwards. If there are any new vendors, you might want to start engagement with those vendors as soon as possible, starting this month itself. Next slide, please. Okay, so let's talk about the phases of open enrollment. So we have broken down the open enrollment into 3 phases. One is the preparation phase, basically from now till the time open enrollment starts. The actual enrollment period, wherein the employees log into their self-service portals and then they enroll themselves into various benefits for the upcoming year. And then the third phase is the open enrollment post-enrollment activities, which is mostly administrator related. So I will talk about them. But before that, let me highlight some of the key dates that should be kept in mind. So the open enrollment elections are effective January 1, even though the employees elect the benefits this year. So make sure that your setup reflects that. Okay. The coverages for the open enrollment also are effective January 1. However, the rates or the element entries, you might be familiar with element entries if you are a payroll customer. So those are effective before January 1, and it typically depends upon how your payroll calendars are set up. So as an example, a customer might have a payroll, the first payroll period as 27th December to, let's say, 3rd of January. Okay, so this might be one payroll period. So naturally, the rate and the element entry should start from 27th December in that case. So make sure your setup reflects that. Also, we need to make sure that our setup accurately ends the previous coverage so that it can start a new coverage. So any coverage that is effective in 2020 needs to end on 31st December 2020 so that a new coverage or new plan can begin in 2021. Now, there are certain exceptions for each company. We have dealt with customers and we have helped customers in setting up open enrollment wherein the plan year wasn't a standard calendar year and it was actually July 1 to 30th of June. So they were following this calendar for open enrollment or for the benefits. So it could depend from one organization to another organization. So that could be one of the exceptions. Also, the coverage and rate start or end date rules might be different based on your business requirements. So EVOSys helps you in setting up all of this while guiding your organization to achieve the objective. Next slide, please. Okay, so we have broken down the phases of open enrollment along with the timelines and broken down into different months. Okay, this is assuming that you are going to do an open enrollment or you are having an open enrollment in the month of November. EVOSys as an organization helps its customer plan and formalize this this draft of the timeline and also helps in the setup of various plans and if there are any interfacing related changes that need to be done before the actual open enrollment starts. So we prepare this and we help you in achieving your timelines. Okay, so this is a representative timeline. As you can see in the month of September and October, basically you can start from August itself. This is a time when if any plan configuration needs to be updated or if there are any new plans that are supposed to be set up, any rate or coverage related changes that need to be done, those are done in the application. You also can run a trial open enrollment. So there is a provision to run open enrollment for a selected bunch of people. You can run that, you can test the performance of the system, you can fine tune the system if something is not working out. So you can identify a small subset of employees who help you, for example, HR or benefit users who help you in testing out this particular open enrollment module. Then starting from the first week of November, you can, whenever your open enrollment starts, you basically run the open event. And for this, you have to run these processes, evaluate scheduled event participation, and then moving on to enroll in default benefits. So the second one runs automatically when you run the first one. Yeah. Then throughout November, employees, they enroll in different benefits using their self-service. If benefit admin needs to intervene in this particular process and help the employees out, even the benefit administrators can go into the work area of enrollments and can enroll the employees into various benefits. Post November, when the open enrollment period ends, this is basically the administrative period, basically in the month of December, wherein benefit administrators may want to change a few elections if they are maybe inaccurate or incomplete. If there are any action items or certifications which are pending, they can complete that. And finally, they also close the open enrollment period and send the files to various vendors. Next slide. Okay, so here is a checklist of items that I will walk you through as per the phases. So in the phase one, that is before the open enrollment, so this is where your majority of the preparation happens. So you need to make sure that your payroll calendars for 2021, that is for the next year, are updated. You want to make sure that your benefit plan year periods are available for the next year so that the employees can see that particular plan or see that particular program for the next year. If there are any eligibility related changes, any rate changes, any new offerings that are coming up, those need to be configured in the benefits module using plan configuration. This also gives you an opportunity to end those offerings that are no longer offered. You also have to add the open event to the scheduled live event section in the program from the plan configuration. And as I mentioned, any updates to the rates, coverage, that needs to take place from the effective date 1/1/2021. Make sure that you do not update these configurations from today. You update these configurations from 1/1/2021 so that it is reflected for the next year. For plans like FSA, employees have to start a new coverage each year because they don't roll over from 1 year to the next year. So you want to make sure that those setups are done, which I will also show you in the upcoming slides. Next slide, please. Yeah, as a benefit admin, you also have to resolve any in-progress life event. So employee might have some life events ongoing before the open enrollment. You want to make sure as a benefit administrator that you are handling any conflicting life events. You are closing out any open events which might be pending because of any pending certification or any action item. So before the open enrollment start, run a report and find out what are the action items or certifications that are pending for the employees, complete whatever is necessary so that you are prepared for the open enrollment. Once that is done, you process a trial open enrollment for a selected bunch of individuals. You test out this trial open enrollment by going into self-service for those selected employees. If there are any bugs, any issues with any rates, coverage, you update it while there is still time. And most important thing, which Laila also pointed out, is planning for the end user training. Okay, so this could be done using multiple approaches. One of the most commonly followed approach is communication or announcements through emails. So this is how you make sure that all the employees in your organization are on board. Another way could be you upload a user manual or a training video or an open enrollment video on their self-service portal itself, and using email you can guide them to this particular video so that they can get acquainted with what is coming to whatever is going to happen in the further phases. Yeah, next slide. Yeah, next is the checklist for phase 2, that is during the open enrollment. So you want to run as an administrator a participant enrollment results report, which you can run from reports and analytics, just to find out who is enrolled in what. So this is your baseline enrollments, that is enrollments before the open enrollment actually starts. So you want to make sure that you have that information in place and stored in your application so that you can track which employee has made any election changes or which employee has not yet performed those changes. Then you have to run the open enrollment by running the evaluate scheduled event participation. If there are any errors in running this particular process for a selected individual, you analyze like what was the error and what is causing this error. It could be a conflicting life event which is not allowing you to process open. It could be a terminated employee who is no longer eligible for open. So you might want to ignore those errors. Once the open enrollment is processed for the employees, as an employee, you go into your self-service, you enter enrollments, and you also add your contacts, add your dependents into the system and enroll them as well. Once the open enrollment completes, the administrator then closes out the open enrollment window from evaluation and reporting. So there is a dedicated process for that. And finally, as we did to start with, we also run the participant enrollment result as an administrator to note down what were the changes done by the employees during enrollment. In the next phase, that is after the open enrollment ends, the benefit administrator, they verify the enrollments through the enrollment area. You can also run reports, as I mentioned in the previous step. If there are any incorrect enrollments, like if there is a rate that you forgot to update, so there is a provision to update those rates as well that I will talk about in some time. You close any action items that were provided by or were completed by the employees and certifications that were uploaded by the employees. So you close out those items. If there is any overrides that are required for any employee, you enter them. If there are any inactive plans that are no longer offered after this particular open enrollment, you inactivate them. And finally, you process life events that happen after open enrollment. For example, somebody could get married or had a child. So you can process those life events as well after the open enrollment is complete. And after all this is done, you can verify the enrollments using the enrollment work area. I will take you through some of the critical choices that you might want to look at when you are setting up these plans. So as you know, if the employee logs into the system and participates in open enrollment, they are already enrolled in the plans that they were enrolled in 2020. So in 2021, we should have a provision to roll over this particular plan enrollment from this year to the next year. So in order to do that, this is a screenshot of the setup that you might want to do. So in the default enrollment rule and in the enrollment rule, if you select those rules that I have highlighted, you will basically roll over the enrollments from this year to the next year. So in order to do that, you go to navigation, program, enrollments, and under schedule, you do this particular setup. Next slide. Similarly, there are plans like FSA in which you have to elect a fresh coverage each time you participate in an open enrollment. So the default enrollment rule and the enrollment rule that are highlighted in red, they need to be set up appropriately for the FSA. Next slide. Yeah, one of the most important setups for open enrollment is the reinstatement rules. So as I pointed out that there could be some rate related inaccuracies and you might have forgotten to update one of the rates in the system. So this particular rule or reinstatement rule will help you in reprocessing the events while at the same time retaining the enrollment. So you don't want your employees to lose out on the elections that they have done just because you are fixing one rate in the system. So you might want to update your reinstatement rule to the ones that are highlighted in red so that you do not lose the enrollments even if you are backing out or rolling back your life events. All right, so here are some frequently asked questions that I basically arranged in order for you to understand about open enrollment in a far better manner. So if you have for more questions, you can always use the chat box, and you can raise your hand or ask in the question box. However, I'll quickly go through each of these questions.
Yeah,
So
I'll just say, I was just going to say, we know people tend to be shy on these webinars. Yeah. So Rohit was kind enough to come up with common questions that he receives and is going to go through those. But please don't hesitate. If you have questions that are not covered here, or if you have follow-up questions, just go ahead and ask the question through the question feature, or you can follow up with us afterwards. So thank you.
All right, so let's go through the frequently asked questions. So let's start with the first one. So when should you begin with trial open enrollment? So assuming that the open enrollment is somewhere in October end or November start, if this is your timeline, then you should be starting with your trial open enrollment in the month of September. Let's say if a new plan, the vendor remains the same, but a new plan comes up in 2021, by when should the configuration be in the system? So as I mentioned, the open enrollment timeframe in this particular example is October end to November start. So new plans and rates should be set up by September end so that we get enough time to test them out as well as test them during the trial open enrollment. And we also need to make sure that the reinstatement rules are in place so that we do not lose out on any enrollment related updates. Any necessary check which needs to be done on the open life event. So there is one important thing that you need to check on the open life event, that the process date that you need to select will be 1/1/2021. Even though we are processing a bit early, I mean, we are processing it in October, November itself, but the date in the system should be 1/1/2021. How to ensure open enrollment works correctly? So we do this as a benefit admin. We process open enrollment for a few employees, a bunch of employees, and we verify rates and coverage, and if we are able to enroll dependents using the administrator login. How to ensure all employees are enrolled in open event before closing the event. So this is an important one because you might want to keep a track as to how many employees participated in open enrollment. So this can be done either by using an out-of-the-box report, which is under evaluation and reporting. If there are any custom reports, Evosys provides its customers with a custom report. Basically, it is a dashboard which helps you identify how many employees participated, how many are remaining to basically log into the system and have not participated yet or have not completed their enrollments. So we also help customers with a few custom reports here. Another important one is dependents are not showing up when the employees are trying to enroll, what to do. So dependents need to be added before the open enrollment window. So for this, you need to make special provision, or you need to have your communication clear that the employees have to have the dependents entered in the system before the open enrollment actually begins, so that you are prepared. If that is not done, then you need to contact benefit administrators and ask them to reprocess the event. Can you go to the next slide, Laila?
So I see we have a question in the question window, so let's open it up and see. Oh, okay, they're just asking about yes, we will be providing a copy of the deck to everybody that signed up. So as long as you're on the attendee list, you will absolutely receive a copy after this presentation. Okay, I just want to make sure it wasn't something related to the questions you just covered, so please
Okay.
carry.
All right. The next is, what if my open enrollment window needs to be extended? So there are situations wherein, let's say you are live on Oracle HCM for the first time, and because of the newness of the system, you might want to extend the open enrollment by a couple of days, or there could be some other reason as well. So in order to extend the window, there is a seeded process. You go to evaluation and reporting and run the extend open enrollment process, and you can enter the number of days by which this process would be extended. So if you enter 3 over there, it will be extended by 3 days after the last date on which you can do the elections. Another thing is, if salary change or assignment change happens, which triggers additional life events. So customers already have something set up which basically triggers life event based on assignment changes or any type of salary changes. So you need to make sure, I mean, as Evosys, we recommend that you disable any triggers during open enrollment so that the open enrollment continues uninterrupted and there are no errors when employees are actually electing the enrollments for 2021. If there are any HR data related changes like salary, you can always reprocess event for them once the open enrollment is over. So let's say a salary change happened in between the open enrollment period and you want to update the enrollments for this particular year itself from that particular day. So when the open enrollment period actually ends, you can actually reprocess the event and reprocess the open enrollment event while processing the salary change. This will ensure that the rates are updated for current year and the enrollments for 2021 are intact. If there are any other life events that happen during open enrollment, like marriage or birth of child, again, for this type of scenario, this is a case-by-case scenario. Every employee might have a different scenario. There are only a handful of such cases which happen during open enrollment period, because we are only talking about 15 or 20 days during the open enrollment. So in such cases, the benefit administrator could be contacted and the employees could reach out to the benefit admin and ask them to help out in such scenarios in which the customer needs to manually resolve such conflicts. And we also advise that the record life event task using which you basically record a life event is disabled during open enrollment minimally to avoid such conflicts. What needs to be informed to employees before open enrollment? So as an employee, you might want to check your date of birth, your SSN, your address, your personal details in the system, as well as for your contacts and dependents. This should happen before the open enrollment, as I mentioned earlier, because if you are into open enrollment, if you are adding a contact at that time, or if you are changing any data for your contacts, you need to contact your benefit admin to reprocess the event. Should we plan for any production to test cloning for open enrollment testing? Well, ideally, P2T is optional for testing. However, if you want to test out a certain scenario on a live environment or on live data, then you can maybe have a copy in September so that you can do open enrollment testing somewhere in October or before the open enrollment starts. So these were the frequently asked questions that I compiled from the various webinars that I conducted earlier. If you have any other questions, please make sure you ask them in the question box and we'll be happy to address them.
Thanks, Rohit. And I'm just going to continue on, and feel free if you have any questions, so you can go ahead and enter those. And we just got a couple more slides here, but wanted to take a little more time on digital assistants and just explain a little bit more. So, on these webinars, while we're focused more towards Oracle Cloud customers, we do sometimes get customers that are on other HCM platforms. And so we do want to let you know that our digital assistant is platform independent. It uses the same technology Oracle is using for Oracle Cloud, but we have the ability to provide you with digital assistants, whether you're on EBS or PeopleSoft or SAP or Workday, or some other platform out there, ADP, whatever. We can provide you digital assistants, and we just need the ability to get a file from your database in order to have employee information that we could serve up as part of responses on the digital assistant. So the Open Enrollment Digital Assistant, we're showing here Cloud HR and Benefits, but again, could be another HCM platform. We're happy to work with you, and we have experience with other HCM platforms as well. And any channel that you would like to use a digital assistant through, we've shown some of the more common ones here, but if there's another one that you use, we have Slack showing here, WhatsApp, as well as Siri, Alexa, whatever the preference is in your organization, or if it's just going to a website, any of those is perfectly fine for a digital assistant. So please let us know if that's something that you have interest in. And just as a final wrap up, so open enrollment happens once a year, and oftentimes people don't remember from year to year what are the things we need to do, and let alone what they need to do from an organizational standpoint, but what they need to do from a system standpoint. And so EvoSys is here to help. So we have support packages. If you need support for the open enrollment process, we can help you with just making the changes for the new plan year, help you with testing cycles to confirm that everything's been set up properly and is ready for employees to use, as well as answering questions if you're trying to figure out how to do things within the application. Rohit also mentioned that we have custom dashboards and reports that we can provide to help facilitate and monitor the open enrollment process. We can also take it to the next level. So if you'd like to completely outsource, we need somebody to just put together the plan, put together the activity, and then take us through all the steps to open enrollment, we can take that on as well. So we can work with you at whatever level you might need of support around open enrollment or anything else with your Oracle Cloud applications. Likewise with digital assistants. So we have various packages and offerings, and have ways that you can try them out for a smaller cost. And assuming you like them and you want to expand, we can then work with you on growing your digital assistant capabilities within your organization. So offering a variety of choices there as well. So that's just to let you know a little bit more about how we can help you out, but please let us know if there's anything we haven't mentioned that you need help with. We're here to help. We're here to provide support. So just let us know how we can do that. You should have contact information from having registered for this webinar. And again, we will send copies of the presentation to anybody that was registered. So you should be receiving that within the next day or so in your inbox. But I've provided our email addresses here as well. So that's myself and Rohit. So please feel free to email us if you have any questions at all. If there's anything you'd like to talk about further, we'd love to chat more with you. So any email, feel free to send to us, and we will get back with you right away. So thank you so much for joining us today. I don't see any questions being logged, but we'll give it a minute or two here. If anybody has questions on anything at all, just feel free to pop those in the question box, and we will address those. But I think we got about 3 minutes left here before the top of the hour. So we'll hold for a minute here to see if there's any questions before we conclude our webinar. Well, it seems like we have a shy group here, and that's fine. We often find that's the case, that people are not comfortable asking questions more publicly. So you've got our contact information. You'll get a copy of the presentation. in your inbox, and that will include our contact information as well. So don't hesitate to reach out. We hope you found this beneficial, and we will see you all again soon on another webinar. Thank you so much for joining.